We're back. By some miracle and in absolute defiance of every law of physics, this clothing rack is still standing. It cannot rationally be explained, but I am very grateful. Before I published the last video, I posted a picture of this clothing rack on my Instagram story, and so many people DM'd me being like, did your clothing rack come like that? I think it might be defective. Someone was like, that rack is hanging on by a prayer and a wish. And you, my friend, are not wrong. So, if you're tuning in for the first time, apparently I spent all of the last year acting like a fairy tale character who made a very stupid, short-sighted deal with some trickster godlike character. And if I did not produce an absurd amount of clothing in 1 year, then they would get my firstborn child. That's the sort of energy that I think I was sewing with this past year, because somehow I made 90 pieces of clothing. Actually, I think it was over 90 pieces of clothing, but that's kind of scary, so I'm not thinking about that. And so I am sharing everything that I made in 2025, but because of the magnitude of the situation we find ourselves in, I'm splitting it into 3 parts. Part 1 was all of the matching sets that I made, which is about half of this clothing rack here. This part, the Empire Strikes Back, shall we say, will be bottoms, tops, outerwear, and also everything that I knitted. And then the big finale will be part 3, which is going to be all of the dresses I made, of which there are about 30. If you enjoy this, if you are interested in seeing the full trilogy, then I do encourage you to subscribe. I also post a lot of sewing vlogs, and I'll do little recaps throughout the year of everything I made for each season. So we have a lot of categories to cover today. I don't know if, like Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, if this second installment will be the best and, set a new gold standard for cinema that will carry through the ages. But I can tell you that it will probably be the longest. Oof. Kind of regretting making so many clothes now. In fact, I ran 8 miles this morning, and I can already tell you that going through and trying on all of this clothing is going to be the most physically and emotionally taxing thing that I do all week. Geez, I should have grabbed an energy drink. Anyway, we have a lot to get through. I probably need to save my voice. I would encourage you to start doing some chores. This is probably a good thing to have on while you're doing dishes. Grab a cup of coffee, drink an energy drink for me, pour one out. If you haven't seen part 1, or if you haven't watched my summer sewing recap, basically, I'm going to be pulling out all of the clothing that I made. I'm going to be talking about the process of making it, probably telling you some stories about where or how I wore it, and I will be exposing any and all mistakes that I made along the way. Yeah, this clothing rack is not getting any sturdier, so let's get started. All right, we are starting off with a project that, like a lot of things that I make, is not technically correct, but it is functional and very cute. So this is the Hannah skirt by Rosary Apparel. I made this out of a bedsheet that I thrifted. Most of these fabrics are thrifted. I think a few of the knits are not, but in general, unless I comment on it, you can assume everything is thrifted, probably a bedsheet. This was a black gingham JCPenney's bedsheet that I made a few items of clothing out of, actually, but this is the only one you'll see in this video. So this is a very simple wrap skirt with pockets. Janelle over at Rosary Apparel is very good about putting pockets into all of her designs, which, you want to talk about women supporting women? That is a girl's girl right there. Anyway, I say this is not technically correct because, as you know, if you have watched most of my videos probably at this point, I do have a fear of buttonholes. And so the way this skirt is designed, I believe that you're actually supposed to put a buttonhole on one side to slip one of the ties through, and so you can wrap it around yourself very cleanly. I did not do that. Maybe I will add it at some point, but I don't feel like you really need to, honestly. I just kind of wrap it all around, and I don't feel like people can really tell that there's a difference. I do always wear shorts underneath when I wear it. I do that with any sort of wrap skirt, wrap dress. It's a little too tempting for the wind to spring in there and separate the curtains, so to speak. I've worn it out. People have complimented me on it. I don't think anyone has ever noticed anything. And this is such a great beginner-friendly pattern. And it comes in 2 other styles as well. So this one has kind of a curved edge. There's also one with more of a straight corner, and there's one with a beautiful ruffle. And Janelle also has her own YouTube channel. I believe she has a tutorial for all of her patterns. And this truly is such an easy pattern, especially if you don't make the buttonhole. But even with the buttonhole, as long as you have a sewing machine that's capable of that, it's very, very simple. The instructions are great. Overall, 10 out of 10, highly recommend. I think it's super cute, super versatile, and fantastic for beginners. Oh, oh, yikes. Okay, well, I'm just noticing a couple of mistakes here. I don't know if mistakes is the right word, but apparently I spilled something because I had sort of a yellow stain there and there. I don't know if you can see it super well on camera, but that's a huge bummer because I absolutely love this skirt. I'm gonna throw it in the washing machine before I do the try on, and hopefully I can get this out. I truly have no idea what that is though. Anyway, as you might be able to tell from the fact that it has stains on it, this is a skirt that I absolutely love. I made this using the Lila skirt by Pattern Cause Patterns. Oh, I always forget to say this. I'm so sorry. Links to all the patterns will be in the video description. So this is a hacked version of that skirt. The skirt itself is extremely simple, which honestly, I love a simple sewing pattern because it is so easy to hack it and make it your own and use it for so many different projects. So this is actually one of the simplest skirts you could ever find. It's a pretty straight silhouette, no darts in the front. There are 2 darts in the back. And what I did is I used a lining instead of a waistband. I cut the skirt a little bit shorter and I added this ruffle at the bottom. And I love the effect it created. I actually made this to sort of get myself out of winter doldrums last year. And I'm kind of tempted to do it again. I have a white and black polka dot fabric that I'm thinking of making as part of my sewing winter wardrobe essentials video, and basically doing this exact same skirt. This is another very easy beginner friendly pattern. The only thing to be aware of is you do have to add a zipper and do darts. But if you're adventurous and determined and maybe a little bit delusional, I promise you can figure it out. That's my motto anyway. But I just love the boho feel of it, and I love this fabric so much. And again, obviously by fabric, I mean bed sheets. I think that this is actually like a Target bed sheet. I was at Goodwill yesterday and they had another one of these. So if I can't get the stains out, I might go buy that sheet and just make the skirt all over again. Because not only as a very simple skirt is it very easy to style and play with, but I love the colors of the butterflies so much. I love the little touches of lilac and blush pink and sort of burnt orange on top of that. How would I describe this blue? Almost a smoky blue. I feel like they play together so beautifully. And it's a color palette that I really like, and that I have a lot of tops that play into it. It just goes with so many things, but it's such a beautiful statement piece all on its own. I really love it. I think that it's really beautiful. And yeah, hopefully I can get those stains out. Now, confessing 2 mistakes. Here's the thing. What's going on behind my back is none of my business. So unfortunately, I don't know what it is. Like, this isn't a very special fabric. I'm pretty confident this is like 100% polyester. If not, it is primarily polyester, I can assure you. So it's not a particularly tricky fabric, but for some reason, when I put in the zipper, there were all of these kind of loose threads in the fabric that kept getting caught in the zipper. And so every time I would zip or unzip, I would be pulling like these random threads in the fabric. And as a result, now there's all of these runs in the fabric around the zipper. You can see like these runs, primarily on this side for some reason. Actually, this side looks fine. Again, I don't really know why that was happening with this fabric, and it wasn't a part of the sewing process. It was just after I put in the zipper, all of these loose threads in the fabric kept slowly tearing it apart. So that is frustrating. So maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to just remake this skirt, but regardless, I still really love it and enjoy getting some good wear out of it. I don't wear as many florals in the winter, but for some reason, I feel like I can get away with these butterflies more, which makes no logical sense, but it makes sense in my brain. Next up, we have this white maxi skirt. This is a part of the Sable set by Erin Ford. I made this skirt during my sewing summer wardrobe essentials video, but let me tell you, even in the winter, this has been such a go-to for me. When it was warmer, I really loved pairing it with my gingham vest, which I showed you in part 1. And in the winter, I've really loved pairing it with a bright cardigan. It's just a nice neutral base that you can really build off of and style and layer to make super fun. It's also just such a classy, timeless piece. Again, this is made out of a thrifted bedsheet, and you can kind of tell on camera, I think, but it just has this beautiful sort of Swiss polka dot texture to the fabric that I really love because it's nice and subtle. It's not like it's detracting from any top that you want to wear with it, but at the same time, it just just adds such a special, beautiful texture to it that I absolutely love. It fits like a glove. The whole sable set, I think, is very appropriate for beginners. All of the closures are elastic, so you don't have to do any buttons or zippers or anything like that. And the skirt has pockets. We love to see it. Next up, this was a part of my fall wardrobe essentials video. And this is just a simple white satin skirt that I made. This is the Sadie, it's probably pronounced Sadie, skirt by Vicky Sews. And it's just a very simple bias cut skirt. So you sew using French seams. There are a couple of darts in the back, but overall, very, very simple project. I did give a few tips over in my sewing fall wardrobe essentials video, but I love a satin skirt, especially for fall. I think that it's such a beautiful way to elevate any outfit. You can pair it with a chunky sweater or a vest. You can wear it with boots or any kind of top you want, and it's still just going to bring a certain level of elegance. This skirt is cut on the bias, so it drapes beautifully. If you aren't familiar, bias cut essentially means that the fabric is cut at a diagonal, and that gives the fabric a little bit of stretch. So you can see, even holding up this skirt, it just has these beautiful folds that drape down. And it just helps shape to your body so beautifully in a way that looks good on every person. It's just a very simple project that I think you can get a lot of mileage out of, and that I have very much enjoyed having in my closet. And I'm pretty proud of how this one turned out, because usually when I sew with satin, I do use the thinnest needle possible, and I'm very, very careful. And yet somehow it still feels like there are always runs in the fabric by the time I finish. But this one actually turned out pretty well. So yay, success. No mistakes to report. Next up is actually a little self-drafted skirt. I'm very active. I run. I'm like always out walking the dog. And let's be real, like most of us wear activewear just around the house. I do. And so I have this black Nike skirt that I really love, and I wanted a white version of it. So I kind of scratched together my own. It is far from perfect, but it has potential. This was a first draft of a self-drafted project, so I feel like, we can be a little nice to it. So like I said, this was kind of modeled after an athletic skirt. And so it has some nice deep pockets in the sides. Theoretically, if you wanted to put tennis balls or pickleballs or something in there, you could. It has shorts, obviously, underneath it. And it just has like this little tie in the front for aesthetics mostly, but also because, when you're moving a lot, you got to tighten things up a little bit. I definitely have some shorts that are fine when I'm just lying around the house, but if I'm going on a run, I got to cinch those suckers up or I'll be pulling them up the entire run. So like I said, overall, I think that it was a good first attempt. And honestly, I don't have a ton of mistakes per se, just things that if I were to continue to try and make this and maybe put it out as a pattern someday, which I'm considering. Sound off in the comments if you would be interested in that. There are just some things that I would adjust. So first of all, the most frustrating thing to me, as you can see, there's no elastic in the front. There is elastic in the back. How do I explain this? Basically, when I tighten the elastic, it bunches too much in the back. It has almost sort of a diapery effect. And so there's a few ways that I could potentially fix that, but that is something that does need to be fixed. Also, it is a very A-line skirt, which I don't really mind. Is actually kind of feminine and fun, but I did envision it to be a little bit straighter. So I would probably bring in the edges of the skirt a bit. And finally, the shorts are fine, but I think that I might make them just like a little bit looser. I might be able to make them a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, that was my attempt at self-drafting a pattern. While not terrible, definitely has some bugs that I might continue to fix. Again, let me know if that's something you might be interested in. And next up, we have probably one of the most boring things that I've made, but also one of the things that I wear the most. This is just a very simple pair of white shorts. I believe this is McCall's 9290, and we had a little beach vacation this past summer, so I whipped these up. I love them. They are so versatile. I mean, white, neutral, they go with everything. They fit so well. I did make another version of these shorts in this beautiful green gingham. I started this a while ago, actually, but I just finished it this past year, so I'm counting it. These are the same pattern. However, this is more true to the pattern because technically the pattern does come with a waistband. I just didn't include the waistband for this pair of shorts, and that worked out fine for me. But Technically, it does have a waistband, which I included in this green gingham pair of shorts. I mentioned in my summer sewing video that green is actually my favorite color, and specifically, I really love this shade of green. And people were shocked that green was my favorite color because I did not make very many green things. I had one top that was green, which I'll be showing you in a little bit. And pretty much everything else was in like the pink, red color family or yellow. I don't know what to tell you. This is my favorite color. Obviously, they have a color to them, so they're not quite as versatile as these white pair, but still, I really love how they fit. I love how they look, and I think they're pretty stinking cute for spring, summer. Okay, this is another item of clothing from my summer wardrobe essentials video. And this is based on a pair of pants that I saw at Target and absolutely fell in love with. So as you can see, it's pretty simple. It's just an elastic waist pants with some bows down the side. And this is essentially a hacked version of the ruffled bow boxer by Matchy Matchy Sewing Club. So the pattern only has it available as a pair of shorts. And essentially I just lengthened the leg, kind of figured out how long I wanted the slit to be, and then just made ties all the way down it. And you can go check out my summer wardrobe essentials video if you want to see more on the full process of me making it. But overall, I absolutely love this pair of pants. I've worn them quite a bit, actually. First of all, I just love an elastic waist pair of pants. I think that they work in so many situations. If you pair it with a nice top, I think that it looks just very kind of casually classy. Or you can just like wear it with a t-shirt and go to a sports bar. I don't know. You can go anywhere in elastic waist pants, in my opinion. And I love that this slit on the sides provides a little bit of ventilation in like the heat of summer, but the bows still keep it very cute and classy. So overall, a very functional pair of pants, but with a soft feminine touch that I think is so unique and adorable. So, fun fact about me. Actually, I don't know if it's really that fun, but it is a fact about me. I do not like leggings. Just any sort of pant that like clings all the way down my leg makes me feel kind of claustrophobic, which is weird because I'm not usually someone who cares that much about fabric, texture, or anything like that. I'm not super picky about like itchy sweaters or materials or anything like that. But something about like a pant that's fitted all the way down drives me absolutely crazy. I was the last person I knew to start wearing skinny jeans. Best day of my life was when skinny jeans went out. I got rid of all of mine. Well, I have one or two just so that I can wear boots, but I haven't worn them in like probably like 5 years, honestly. I probably should get rid of them. Anyway, I was also ecstatic when flared leggings came into style because that I can deal with. So I could not hit add to cart fast enough when Vicky Sews put out the Ramona pant, which is essentially flared leggings. And this is a pair that I made using some fabric that I bought at Joann's when they were going out of business. And if you look closely, what I really love, aside from sort of this dusty cornflower blue, is this beautiful waffle knit. So it has such a gorgeous texture that I absolutely love. And these are just such a great pair of pants just for lounging around the house. You know, I specifically made them because my mom and I have this little fall tradition. Every fall, we watch You've Got Mail together. So I wanted an outfit that would be super comfy for just sitting on the couch, but also would look cute. Like I wouldn't look like I was showing up in my pajamas. My parents live not quite an hour away, but they're a pretty good drive away. And something my mom drilled into me is that you shouldn't wear pajamas when you're like just driving somewhere, because if like you get into an accident or you get pulled over or something, you don't want to be standing there in your pajamas. That's one of those random, almost throwaway pieces of advice that your parents give you that just lives in the back of your head forever. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to wear all out pajamas, but I do want to be super cozy and have a nice lounge outfit. So I made these pants. And I think they turned out pretty well. I probably should tighten the elastic in the waistband a little bit. But here's the thing, I had to do some improv with this pattern, which was a little bit annoying because part of the thing about Vicky Sews is that you select your height and then you select your specific size. So you aren't getting a range of sizes and everything should be correct according to your height. So I bought this, I started to make it. I sort of, sewed the leg pieces together and put it on for my first try on. Here's another random tidbit about me is that I'm kind of long. Like I'm not tall, but I'm long, if that makes sense. Like if you took an image of a tall person and just like, reduced it by 20%, that's me. I look like I should be tall. And most people think that I am, but I'm not. I'm just long. So when it comes to pants, even high-waisted pants, a lot of times they don't actually reach my natural waistline. So when I'm making a pair of pants, I do usually increase the length by about an inch or so that it lies nicely at my waist. So I did that with these pants. I can't remember exactly how much I increased it, but I did increase the length, hoping that it would just kind of naturally sit at my waistline. And these are supposed to be high-rise pants. And when I tried it on, it was well below my waistline, even though I had lengthened it. So if you look at the product photos, there's no waistband, but that was why I actually had to add a waistband so that it would actually reach the length that I wanted it to. Meanwhile, at the base, what is this part of the pant called? The bottom, I guess? This part was ridiculously long. Like I had to cut, I honestly want to say like 5 inches off or something like that. And you can see, like, I still had to hem it quite a bit to fit correctly, which again is a little frustrating when part of the thing about the pattern is that you are selecting your height. And so it should kind of already be adjusting for that. And then to have it way too short at the waist and way too long, like I looked like I was wearing footy pajamas. It was so, so long. So I did have to do a bit of tweaking to actually make it work for me. But that said, I really like how they look. I think they're super cute. And they are also super comfy cozy, like I said, for watching TV, curling up with a nice book. If you're looking for like a good pair of lounge pants or like flared leggings or whatever, I would recommend this. Again, just be aware of the struggles that I had and that you may have to do some adjusting with it. Next up is one of my favorite patterns that I discovered this year. This is the Sunrise Skirt by Jessie Lou's Closet. And let me tell you, completely obsessed. I made this yellow version as part of my Sewing Fall Wardrobe Essentials video. I am not exaggerating when I say I have worn this everywhere. I think that it is so stinking cute. Again, I think that it works for so many different occasions. I love a mini skirt, but I also love being able to sit down and stretch out my legs if I want to. And I actually think that it's so cute how you can see a little peek of the shorts in between the skirt panels. I think that's such an adorable touch. I love the little tie on the side. The only complaint I have is that according to the directions, the zipper goes in the front of the shorts. And I understand why. There are a few different versions you can make. So I did the one where you have skirt panels on the front and back of the skirt because personally, I'm not a fan of skirts where you can see the shorts in the back. I'm sorry, it feels like a mullet to me. And mullets just don't work for any person in any context. Like, I'm sorry, if John Stamos couldn't pull off a mullet, why are you trying to wear one on your butt? The public demands an answer. So I prefer the version where you have skirt panels on both sides, but like I said, there is a version with shorts in the back. So I understand that was why she put the zipper in the front so that if you did the shorts version, you wouldn't have like an exposed zipper basically. But unfortunately, I found when I'm wearing the skirt, the panel tends to slip down a little bit, you know, if I'm wearing it and moving around and stuff like that. And then you can see the zipper in the front, which looks really stupid. I'm not a fan of that. So when I made this green gingham version, I did put the zipper in the back, which I like the look of a lot better. I don't know why. For some reason, the fit of the version with the zipper in the back feels a little bit off. I don't know if it's just me, if I did something wrong, but the shorts feel tighter. I will say, when I was making the green gingham skirt, I was wearing this green shamrock hat that my dad got us for Christmas, not this past year, but the year before. And when I tried on the skirt, it did very much look like I was ready for St. Patty's Day. So honestly, probably will wear this for St. Patty's Day this year. Anyway, that's a little side note. Point is, both of these skirts are super freaking cute. Also, I think pretty beginner-friendly projects. Like I said, the only challenge is the zipper, and there are a lot of components to it. So there's not a lot of technical details, but you know, if you're new to sewing, it may just take a while to get through it. But the instructions are very clear. I also obviously showed how to make this in my fall wardrobe essentials video. So feel free to follow along with that if you want to. Also, I made this comment in the video, but this really does look like the sunshine version of Olivia Rodrigo's skirt from the Good For You music video. And I love that. So this is just a little mini skirt that I whipped up. It's a very basic, simple skirt. Yeah, there's a couple of darts in it, but overall, very easy, very simple pattern. This is the Alley Skirt by NH Patterns. I will say, I don't know if I made the wrong size or if I just didn't look at the pictures closely enough, but I was expecting this to be more of an A-line, and instead it is so tight. If I overeat by a muffin crumb, the waist is going to explode like the climactic scene of a Marvel movie. But I do really love this skirt, so I might add some side panels to make it a little more comfortable. Anyway, so a little bit of a tighter squeeze than I expected, but super cute. And it matches the jacket that I made this year. So I love pairing the two of them together. I think that it is such a fun, adorable outfit. Next up, we have the Danny shorts by True Bias Patterns. I talked about this pattern in part one, as well as my most used and most complimented sewing patterns video. So I'm not going to linger on it too much. Basically, my husband and I went to Miami for a couple of days to celebrate our anniversary this past year. And so I just whipped up this little pair of beachy elastic waist shorts, to pair with swimsuits, to wear around town. We did a little biking and things like that. And this is one of my favorite patterns. It's so simple, it fits like a glove, it has pockets. It's just a great pattern and one that I highly recommend. I know that I wear a lot of elastic waist shorts. In my opinion, you can never have too many, and this is just kind of my go to pattern when I'm making them. Oh, one thing that might be worth noting though, and this could be me, my personal preference, I usually hem this, I don't know, like 3, 4 inches. I don't know. I hem it a lot more than you're technically supposed to, but that's how I like my shorts. Next up, we have another tried and true here. This is my favorite elastic pants pattern. And this is the Saguaro Pants by Friday Pattern Company. It's actually a set. I haven't made the top very much, but I probably should because that's also super cute. Anyway, this is another pair of pants that I made out of a bed sheet for our Miami vacation. And honestly, it worked perfectly. I love the bright sunshine yellow and orange in these pants. Again, I just feel like these pants fit so super well. I mean, at the end of the day, that's one of my biggest criteria when I'm evaluating a sewing pattern is I want the finished product to fit me well. And this absolutely succeeds. And I've already talked about how much I love elastic waist pants, so I'm not going to bore you with that diatribe again. I played with the stripes a little bit here. So as you can see, the pants, they're running vertical. And then for the waistband, I had them run horizontal just to add a little bit of interest, a little bit of texture. And then I just used white bias tape for the tie in the front. I love how wide-legged they are. I love that it has these little pockets right in the front. I did have to add a lining with this because the fabric was pretty transparent. And so because of that, it is a little bit stiffer and it doesn't flow quite the way that I would want it to. But overall, I still reach for this all the time. This is another go-to piece of clothing for me when I want to look cute but still very casual. I just pair it with like a yellow crop top and add some nice jewelry and stuff. And to me, it looks super stylish and like I'm ready for anything. All right, these are the pearl pants by Swim Style Patterns. Honestly, this is a pattern that I want to make again because I do have some issues with it. And honestly, I don't think that it's the pattern's fault. I think that it's my fault. So here's the thing. I made these pants literally overnight before our Thanksgiving trip to Ohio. You did not see me make them, but I was making them at the same time as my Fall Wardrobe Essentials Part 2 video. So I made these out of a bed sheet. I love the color of it, but it did pose some challenges. One is the fact that I couldn't really find any matching thread. All of the thread that I found was just too light for it. So one of the problems is that the facing kind of keeps poking out. I have a hard time getting it to stay put. And I think part of that is because I need to do an additional line of stitching around the top of the waist. I did stay stitched, but clearly that's not enough for this pair of pants. I will say too, I was not really following the directions because I was just trying to make them quickly. So there might be a better methodology if I was actually following the instructions. Anyway, I do think that I need a line of stitching around the top of the waist to really keep the facing down. But I don't really want to do that because I don't have any thread that really matches this color fabric, which is unfortunate. Also, the zipper, the closest I could find was this off-white. And so, especially when I'm wearing it, you can see the zipper there pretty clearly. And I just feel like that's not a super great look. It also has like kind of these crinkles in it. Part of it could be because I was in a hurry when I made it. And part of it could be the fact that this is a pretty lightweight cotton. I actually, when I was wearing this in Ohio, I was wearing fleece leggings underneath it. That did make it kind of like stick to my legs awkwardly. It didn't look super great when we were in Ohio. It looked a lot better when we came back to Florida and I was able to wear it without the leggings. But anyway, I think that this would look better in a stiffer, more structured fabric. And also this pattern does come with belt loops, but I just ran out of time to include them. And my final issue is the fact that this bright orange is just kind of hard to pair with other things. It looks very cool with the jacket that I made to go with it. But outside of that, it's hard to really pair it with a top. But I don't know, it just doesn't go with too many other colors. So we'll see. I talked in part one how I might do like a video trying to like style my me-made flops, I feel like this would be another contender for that. Again, not a total flop, and I do think that everything wrong with it is my fault. But yeah, I'm just disappointed that I can't love it more. Oh, and also you can see some of my basting stitches there, which aren't great basting stitches. They're pretty small, but yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. But if I did make a video styling my me-made flops, this would be a contender for it. It also reminds me of like the orange pants that the rebel fighters wear in Star Wars. If you know what I'm talking about, I love you. Maybe that's what I should do. Maybe I should just turn it into like a full Star Wars rebel fighter costume and just commit to the bit. Maybe that's how I can save it. Now, thankfully, we are ending the bottoms on a high note because I love and am pretty proud of how this one turned out. I was inspired by an outfit that Sophia Richie wore. She was photographed holding like a matcha from Dunkin', and she was wearing just a simple white tank top and a red gingham skirt that looked an awful lot like this one. That image lived rent-free in my head for months. And obviously, it's Sophia Richie. She has tons of money. So the skirt she was wearing cost $2,500. Yes, I understand like fast fashion is bad and clothing needs to be more reasonably priced so that workers can get fair wages. But like, I'm just not going to be spending that much on a skirt. I can't afford to. But what I can afford is to buy $15 worth of fabric at Hobby Lobby and to make my own skirts, which obviously is what I did. This is a hacked version of the Annette skirt by Dressmaking Amore. It's a very simple hack, but essentially instead of doing pleats, I did gathers to attach the skirt portion to the yoke portion. This was another piece in my fall wardrobe essentials part 2 video, and I wore this for Thanksgiving, paired it with my Adrian blouse, which I will get to in just a few minutes, and I absolutely loved it. I'm so excited to wear this in the spring, summer, paired with a white tank top like Sophia Richie did. I think that's going to look so cute, so classy. I'm genuinely so excited for it. Now, the only issue is the fact that I was very determined to add pockets because, gosh darn it, I didn't want to only replicate a $2,500 skirt. I wanted to improve it. So obviously, easiest way to do that is to throw in some pockets. So when I added in the pockets, I had to do it like right below this yoke piece, which means that like it comes very close to the side zipper here. It might have been better, honestly, if I had just put the zipper down the back, but I didn't. I don't have a whole lot of zipper length here. The gathered portion is very, very voluminous, so I technically only need a zipper down the yoke portion anyway. But if I were to make it again, I probably would do it down the back because I think that'll be a lot cleaner and easier to zip and unzip and to install and all of that stuff. But overall, I really love this skirt. I'm very proud of how it came out. And I can't wait to make my own version of some other expensive piece of clothing. Let me know if you have any suggestions. And we are kicking off tops with one of my most made tops this year. This is a pattern that I just discovered this year. And because clearly I have an obsessive and addictive personality, I made it 3 times. Actually, that's not true. Technically, I made it 4 times. Like I said, I wore this white one at Thanksgiving with the red gingham skirt, and my mom really liked it, so I made her one for Christmas. Anyway, this is the Adrian blouse by Friday Pattern Company. It has so much potential. I love that you can make it in a neutral color, like white, or you can make it in a black or brown or whatever you want. And it just feels kind of like an elevated t-shirt, you know? Like it's very simple, but it has these very flowy, almost poet's core sleeves. If I was writing Tennyson-esque or Lord Byron-esque poetry in the 1800s, this is what I would be wearing. Just the dreamiest sort of 3/4 sleeves you've ever seen in your life. The neckline is so beautiful, and the best part is that this shirt is only 3 pieces. You cut each part twice and you sew them all together. So technically there is no front or back because that's all the same piece, which I appreciate because I will say there are quite a few me-made garments where I'm actually not sure which is the front and which is the back. And with this, you don't have to worry about that. They're both the front and they're both the back. Put it on whatever way you want. Whichever side you made the least mistakes on, probably. Okay, so let me go through all of these versions. So I made this white version out of just a simple knit fabric that I bought at Hobby Lobby. I made this more colorful floral version out of a knit fabric that I bought when Joann's was going out of business. I think it was when they were in like their last day or two. So I think it was like 70 or 80% off for the entire spool. My mind's blanking on bolt. That's what it is. I made this version, which I think is very spring-like and fun and adorable. I love the pastel shades in it. And then I made this version with these beautiful tiny blue florals. This fabric also has this gorgeous ribbed texture to it. I love it. This is another fabric that I bought at Joann's. This was while they were having their going out of business sale, but it wasn't quite to the point where they were basically giving fabric away. So I only got, I think, like 3 yards of this. I kind of wish that I'd gotten more. I made another top out of it too, which I'll show you in just a second. I think that all 3 versions of this, they're just so feminine and romantic. It's also a very quick and easy project. The white version I made like the day before we left for Thanksgiving. And it worked out. It is such a gorgeous top. I cannot recommend this pattern enough. I absolutely love it. Next up is the Zoe Tank by True Bias. I'm thinking about doing a video about like my desert island sewing patterns. Like if I was stuck on a desert island and I could only bring like 5 sewing patterns with me or something like that, which ones would I bring? I think this would be on the list, honestly. I actually made 3 versions of this top, but I can only show you 2 of them because one of them I ended up using to make a super cute activewear dress. So stay tuned for part 3 if you want to see that one. As a girl who lives in Florida and sweats like a gosh darn pig, any sort of like tank top, camisole, lightweight shirt is my friend. This is such an easy pattern to make. I also think that it's just so beautiful. I love the little neckline facing and edges around it. You can make something that's very sort of versatile and everyday like this red version, and you can also make something that's so dainty and beautiful like this floral version. It's one of those patterns that can change very dramatically depending on the fabric that you use. I made this red version in my Sewing Summer Wardrobe Essentials video, and I've gotten a lot of wear out of every version that I've made, honestly. I think they look super cute, they fit super well, and they're a super quick, easy project. They also don't require a ton of fabric, so if you have any scraps of a knit fabric lying around, you might be able to use this pattern to make a super cute top out of that. Okay, I'm just noticing that I pinned a hem for this, but apparently never actually hemmed it. Here's the thing about knits, is that most of them don't fray, so you typically don't have to finish the edges like you do with a woven fabric. So I know that I have worn this, but apparently I thought it would be good to hem it, and I never did. So we'll see. Maybe I'll do that before the try-on portion, maybe not. So this is a hacked version of the Farrah top by Brandy Joanne. I made another version that's truer to the original version that I'll show you in a second. I added these adorable little bell sleeves because, of course, I had to. Cannot resist a bell sleeve. It's not in my DNA. I think that an interesting sleeve can really take a basic top and elevate it into something a little more special. So again, whether that's like the Adrian blouse and their beautiful, flowy, billowy puff sleeves, or it's something like this where you just add a little bit of a taper, or the opposite of a taper, because taper is getting smaller, isn't it? What would be the opposite of taper? Changing a sleeve so that it isn't completely standard, I think is such an easy and effective way to make a top so much more interesting and elevated. This is a fabric that I picked up at Goodwill, and it has some great, beautiful texture to it. I don't know exactly what the fiber content or anything is, but I think that it's super cute. And yeah, this has been a great go-to for me in colder weather. So this is the other Farrah top that I made, of course, also by Brandy Joanne. Let's start with the positives, of which there are several. I think that this is a super cute top. I love sort of the 70s tennis vibe to it with the deep V and the collar. For the most part, it fits extremely well. I actually shockingly like this sort of forest green too. It's not a color that I would typically go for. Like I said, I usually like sort of lighter and warmer tones. This is a little bit cooler toned, I think, and I had to turn on some lights, so that may be distorting the color a little bit for you, and I'm sorry about that. If you're into color analysis, I think this is probably like a summer blue. Maybe based on intensity, it might be winter, but still, it's kind of like in that family. And I talked about this in the last video. I'm pretty confident that I'm a light spring, but because I've also done an absurd amount of research into color seasons, every color season has like a sister color season. So if you picture like the color season as a wheel, typically you have kind of your main color season, which is the one that looks best on you. But then there's another color season that's typically either to the side of your color season or directly across the color season wheel. It's not your primary go-to colors, but they are still colors that really pop and look really good on you. And so, as a light spring, I'm pretty confident that like my sister season is a light summer. I'm not an expert, don't quote me on any of this, but as someone who had a hyperfixation on color season, this is my understanding. So, even though I believe I'm more warmer toned and light spring is my natural color palette, I still can really get away with light summer colors as well. And so I think this might be kind of in that family. All of that to say, I don't know. I just think the color looks good on me. The only gripe I have with this top is that it is so short. I could be wrong. I may have cropped this myself and just done a bad job of it, but I think that this shirt does come with a cropped version that I followed to make this. And so again, just something to be aware of if you make it, if there is a cropped version, which I probably should have double checked. It is very short. And unfortunately, I made this out of a fabric that I found at Goodwill. There was not a lot of it. And so I do have a few scraps that I'm trying to use to cobble together to make a waistband, because I think that I would wear this more if it was just like even an inch or two longer would be fantastic. Because I do love a crop, but this is like barely keeping me covered. So I would like a little bit longer. But like I said, overall, I still think this is so super cute. The collar, so adorable. So such like a perfect 70s inspired pattern in my opinion. So next is just like a little tube top that I whipped up. Some of the local thrift stores around here will sell like bags of fabrics that they have. So, you know, the bags are clear so you can see what's in them, but a lot of times, at least I find, I'll be buying a bag for like a few of the fabrics in it. But inevitably, there will be a couple of fabrics thrown in that I'm not super excited about. You know, it's kind of like fabric roulette or like buying a trail mix and having to pick out the raisins because you really just wanted the M&Ms. And this was one of the fabrics that was just in one of those bags. I bought it for a different fabric actually. Actually, funny enough, both of the fabrics that I bought it for are still on my little wall of fabric. I haven't actually used them yet. I really like both of them, so I'm kind of scared to use them. So but yeah, this was one of the fabrics that was just kind of thrown in there. And there was a style challenge. I think it was during the month of like February or March, something like that. And one of the days had like a nautical theme. And I was like, oh, that seems like a good time to make some use of this fabric. So yeah, I just made a little tube top out of it and obviously edged it with the bias tape. And honestly, I really love it. I think that it is so super cute. It doesn't really work as a tube top because I didn't add any boning or anything in there, so it kind of keeps sliding down. So I am going to add some little white straps at some point. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Now, the bummer about this is that this pattern designer does not sell this pattern anymore. So I'm sorry. But yeah, if you have a bodice that you like, you can probably hack it to sort of create this. But yeah, that's my little sailor top. This is the Byward top by Stitch Witch Patterns, and I absolutely love this top for when it's hotter outside. It's perfect because no sleeves, it has a nice low back, and it also ties in the back, so it's not super confining. I made this version in this fun sort of spring green gingham, same as the shorts and the skirt. Add a lot of fabric. There's also a dress version, which I'll talk about in part 3, which honestly, I think that I love the dress more than the top. For some reason, I don't tend to like high necklines, and I feel like I like it better on the dress than the top. I don't have a logical reason for it, but that is how I feel. I do still really love this top. I think this is also still a pretty beginner-friendly pattern. Again, if you're just starting out, I would recommend something that doesn't really require zippers or buttonholes. I think tie closures are a really great option. And so if you're just starting out, I think you could probably make this top and be really proud of it, and people will be shocked that you sewed it yourself. This is the Bryn cardigan by True Bias, and this comes with a lot of different style options. So you can make it as a cardigan, you can make it as a dress, or you can just make it as a top, which is what this is. However, I did also make 2 cardigan versions, but I'm just going to focus on the top version of it for a minute. And I gotta say, I absolutely love this. I mean, There's a reason why I made 3 different versions of the Bryn cardigan in like a month. I think that this makes for such an adorable elevated tank top. I don't know what it is about adding buttons that makes the top look more classy, but picturing this in a striped fabric or maybe like black with white contrast binding really screams old money coastal vibes to me. I'm really excited to make more of this sleeveless version for the spring and summer. Next up, we have what I really think is kind of a classic, tried and true for the sewing community. I see sewists post this on Instagram all the time, and I get it. This is the Gilbert top by Helen's Closet Patterns. It's just such a fun, sort of camp button down style top. It comes with a few different options. So, as you can clearly see, I went with the bell sleeve, which, oh my gosh, you guys, I love a bell sleeve. I've talked about this so much. It's simply my favorite style of sleeve. I think that it's so fun on such a classic sort of button down. And I know that I've already talked about this, but I think that it just makes it a little more interesting and also adds a little bit of playfulness to what can look to be a more formal style shirt. And then I also opted for the tie front, but it does come with just a traditional button down front as well, if that's what you prefer. And I think that this is so fun, so colorful. I think that it is such a great layering piece. I feel like when I try tying a lot of button down tops, it just doesn't give the cool, effortless feel that I see from a lot of girlies on Pinterest and Instagram. It could definitely just be something that I'm doing wrong. But I love that this has a tie front, so there's no way to mess it up. Like I said, it is technically a button down, so you are supposed to put buttons down the front of it. But personally, I like to tie it so that it's more of a crop length. And so there's not really a lot of room for buttons anyway. And I use it more as a layering piece anyway. So I don't feel like I really need to include buttons on my version. If I change my mind someday, I can. But for now, I just really love it how it is. I think that it's such a fun top to throw on when we're like going down to the beach and I just want a little bit of cover up. Or I think it's going to be really great in the spring for those days that are sunny and they're warm in the sun, but maybe you're like going in and out of places, or, you know, maybe you're in like a little more shaded areas and you want something that you can slip on that's going to be nice and light, but still give a little bit of warmth and easily take off if you decide like, no, this is too hot and I don't want it. And this was part of my, what was it? Summer wardrobe essentials video. If you want to see the full process of me making this, I will say I did struggle a little bit, but we got there in the end. And I'm glad that I fought through and survived, and I really love this piece. Now, this top almost did give me an aneurysm. This is the Jaya top by Vicky Sews. Jaya, I'm not really sure how you say it. And this was part of my Sewing an East Coast summer video. So I made this for a little beach vacation with my family. I just wanted a nice, light, flowy, fun top to wear. Every few years, I would say my whole like dad's side of the family gets together and we rent a beach house in St. Simon. So it's somewhere I've gone a lot kind of growing up and stuff like that. So a lot of nostalgia, but it is such a cute, adorable little beach town. They have a beautiful downtown. They have so many scenic places to go check out. They have, you know, fun restaurants. And of course, they have a beautiful beach, which is where we are most of the time. And so I made this top, and there were a few things that made this difficult. First off, it requires a very light and drapey fabric, which is just inherently a little more difficult to deal with. And there are a lot of very small details on the top. So it's very, very finicky. Every hem is a baby hem. So you can see if I get very close, like the hem is very, very small. And that's how it is all the way around. You have these little like jellyfish tentacles sort of hanging off of it. You know what this shirt top kind of reminds me of is the top Alison De Laurentiis wears in like the first episode of Pretty Little Liars, like her missing persons top. That's a little bit dark, but it does kind of remind me of that. Anyway, so you can check out the Sewing an East Coast summer wardrobe video and see the full panic attack that I had. Actually, I don't think this was the one that I panicked over the most, but we'll cover that one in part 3. That said, I do really, really love how it came out. I do think that it is such a cute, light, perfect top for spring or summer. However, there are a few things that I would change, and these are just personal preferences. They're not, you know, mistakes per se, just something to be aware of if you are interested in also making this top. First off, I personally would raise the neckline a little bit. The other thing is that every time I wear this, I end up wearing safety pins to make sure everything stays closed, because the only thing really holding this together are a few little ties on the front. And they don't go all the way down either. There are only two ties here to secure this entire top. If I were to make this again, which I think I probably will, because I do really love it and I want to make a version with these adjustments, I would also just add some little hook and eye closures down the front just to make sure everything stays put. And if you're taking a little stroll on the beach, you don't want to have to worry that an errant wind is going to fly and everything's going to be on display for the world to see. But still, I'm very proud of this piece. I really, really love how it came out. And yeah, I do want to make it again in 2026. Next up is another perfect summer top. And this one does need to be washed, so please ignore the makeup on the neckline. This is the Gladys top by Stitch Witch Patterns. And I think that this is such a fun, unique top that again is so good for warmer weather because you get a little bit of ventilation. It has this gorgeous tie-up side that gives it a little bit of a corset look while still staying very casual and fun and playful. And as a bonus, there is a 0% chance of armpit sweat with this. This top is so fun. Again, it's just a very good basic, but the little ties at the side just make it a little bit more interesting than your standard tank top. And for us sweaty girls, it lets us do our thing without exposing it to the entire world. I made it in this butter yellow, which I know was very trendy last year, but also is just one of my favorite colors. I was afraid to wear yellow for so many years as, you know, like a blonde white woman. I felt like I was always told like, oh, no, you cannot wear yellow. But I feel like this butter yellow is an inoffensive enough yellow that even if this isn't in your color palette per se, I feel like you can kind of get away with it. Anyway, this was a pretty easy make. I actually whipped this up literally the night before our Miami trip because I was on the pattern testing team and I had to get it done before we left because the deadline, I believe, was while we were on our vacation. And it's a pretty easy project. I did manage to get her done. The only thing is that, unfortunately, the first time I made it, I accidentally made the loops too long, which made it look kind of weird. It didn't have the beautiful lace-up effect that I wanted it to and that it really should have. But I came back, I shortened the loops once we got back home, and it's great. I absolutely love it now. This is a fairly easy project for beginners, I think. Like, there are some curved seams, so, you know, go slowly, be careful during those. But overall, if you're adventurous and determined to take it slowly, I think that you can handle this top. And then you're just going to have a very cool looking top that people will be shocked you made yourself. Okay, this is a statement piece. I actually made this top by combining two different dress patterns, both by the same pattern maker, so that's kind of convenient. And you will see the dress version of both of these dresses in part 3, because I do also love the dresses. But I love the dresses so much, I wanted to make them into a top. And so here we are. So the bodice portion of this is the Seashell Summer Dress by Daria Pattern Making. And this gorgeous 3-tiered ruffled sleeve is from the Blueberry Puff Dress, also by Daria Pattern Making. I saw this bedsheet at Goodwill. I bought one, and then I ended up coming back the next day and buying the other one because I loved the pattern on this fabric so much. So you can see, I thought that this was such a beautiful sort of fall floral with these sort of mustard yellow flowers and almost the burnt orange tones. And even the warmness of the leaves. You can see the leaves aren't very green. They're definitely a little bit more of an olive. And then these little pops of these teal in the flowers, I loved it so, so much. I would love to hear about your sewing process, but for me, a lot of the time I'll see the fabric and the fabric will kind of tell me what it wants to be made into. That's a very dramatic way of phrasing it, but I do feel like a lot of my inspiration does come from the fabric itself. So when I saw this fabric, immediately what stood out to me were the little pops of blue. And I will say, I love light blue as an accent color. I think that if you have a very neutral outfit, particularly like a brown or something like that, just light blue is such a fun, subtle pop of color that I think personally is underrated. So I immediately knew I wanted to make something that included a ribbon so that I could sort of emphasize the blue in the fabric. And of course, I love the Seashell Summer Dress. I've made that, I think, only twice before, but I love a baby doll top. So I wanted to make it just as a top. And then for the sleeves, I actually was not originally planning to go this dramatic with the sleeves. I was originally thinking just to do sort of a puff sleeve with a little bit of elastic down at the end, again, to give it almost that 18th century poet kind of look. But I wasn't planning to do quite this much. But I really loved the sleeve for the Blueberry Puff sleeve. So I figured, oh, I'll just use that pattern and then just do one ruffle down at the bottom. which was stupid because that is designed to have 3 elastics running through it. And so there's a lot of excess fabric to allow for that and to let each puff really live and breathe on its own. And so when I tried it on, like the sleeve was way too big. So I'm like, okay, either I have to like recut the sleeve. I tried doing it with just 2 elastics, but even still, that was far too big. It was just like completely covering my hand. So I ended up just doing it the way the pattern said to do it, which is the easiest way to sew. I don't know why I don't just do what the pattern tells me to more often. As a result, it is very much a statement piece. I feel like this giant sleeves, I feel like it almost gives it an 80s look, whereas the baby doll bodice is a little bit more in the 70s. So it's a little clash of decades. She's probably not everyone's taste, but I actually like how this turned out quite a bit. It's not what I envisioned, but it's still really beautiful. And you know what? Sometimes happy accidents happen when you're sewing, and this was one of them. And speaking of my love of baby doll tops, I'm actually shocked. Those are really the only 2 baby doll tops I made this year. But I do already have plans to make more for this year. So I can tell you right now that you can fully expect to see this pattern in my 2026 sewing recap next year, because this is one of my go-tos. As I said, I love a baby doll top. I think that they are so stinking cute. I also love a baby doll dress, which I want to make like a yellow dress using this pattern, which is the Bubble Frock by Lydia Naomi. It is the Bubble Frock, right? Yes. And you might recognize this red gingham if you watched part 1. I made a full short and vest set out of this tablecloth that I thrifted at the thrift store. And then I proceeded to make this adorable little baby doll top for the 4th of July. I don't know how much I have to say about it, honestly. I just love it. I think that it's so cute. One thing that I find very fun, I've already talked about how much I love changing up a sleeve, and that's something that I love to do with this pattern. This version, I did sort of spaghetti bow straps, which isn't what the pattern has. I think the pattern itself has just like a regular spaghetti strap or something like that, but I think it looks so cute with a bow. And personally, as someone who loves the coquette vibe, I'm just adding bows anywhere I can. But I think that is such a fun, sort of whimsical touch to what's already such a cute, adorable pattern. So one thing to be aware of if you want to make this pattern is that to make the bodice, essentially you sew these 2 upper and lower pieces together. So you do have the seam that runs all the way across the front horizontally, which is fine. As you can see, you can still line up the pieces pretty easily and keep the pattern pretty consistent. But if you are working with a pattern fabric and you are someone who likes to make sure that the pattern stays consistent, just something to be aware of. All right, so that brings us to outerwear, which will be a fairly short section. Thank goodness, because my throat is already starting to feel a little bit hoarse again. Mostly it consists of the Bryn cardigan. You guys, I discovered this pattern this year, and I fell in love like a cheesy rom-com where, you know, the first time the couple meets, like, you know, the woman drops something and reaches for it at the same time the man reaches for it, and their hands touch for one moment, and they look at each other as electricity zaps between them, and you just know that they're endgame. That's the sort of romance I had with this pattern. I made this red version for my fall wardrobe essentials video, and I love this version. I've gotten so much wear out of it, especially in the Christmas season. If you watch the video, you know the agony I had choosing buttons, but I'm so glad that I went with these adorable little kind of rustic looking silver heart buttons. I think it's so sweet and so cute. I think this has also been just such a fun little pop of color to be able to layer onto any outfit. And then this blue version, I decided to get a little more creative with. I did make this actually to go with the lounge pants that I made in the same fabric. So you can see it's the same color. It has that same beautiful waffle texture to it. And so there are just a couple of small differences between this red version and this blue version. So like I said, I made this originally to be just sort of a lightweight lounge jacket that I can throw on and just feel comfy and warm. But again, it's just meant to be very cozy. And so I did make it a little bit more of a bell sleeve. Nothing too dramatic, nothing too noticeable, but I just wanted something sort of loose and flowy. Again, I'm hanging out at home. I don't want to feel like clothes are like really clinging to me. I just want to feel like I can move around and be comfy. And then instead of doing buttons on this one, I did this little blue ribbon that turned out, in my opinion, so stinking cute. I love this jacket so much. I made a little sort of activewear black and white polka dot dress that I will show you in part 3. And this little jacket over that So stinking cute. So much fun. I will 1000% be making the Bryn cardigan more this year. And finally, this is the Frankie jacket by Small Museum. I'm so proud of this. This was the first, like, full jacket that I ever sewed. I sewed outerwear for the first time this year. Like those cardigans and this jacket, that's been it. Like, again, I live in a place where it's not always super necessary. There are more months where you can't wear a jacket than months where you can. So things like jackets and outerwear just constantly get pushed down my list. I was excited to actually make some progress on that this year, and I'm so happy with how this jacket turned out. I made this out of a couple of thrifted bed sheets. The green and orange is from Opal House. I think it's a Jungalow brand. I think it's a collaboration they did with Target. And then the orange lining is actually the same as the pants that I was wearing it with. So I made this jacket as part of my Fall Wardrobe Essentials Part 2 video. In that video, I was headed up to Ohio for Thanksgiving, so I did need things that would actually keep me warm. And this was not warm enough to be outside. I was wearing a coat over it when I was outside. This was part of my Black Friday bowling outfit. Unfortunately, it did not bring me luck. I rolled a 96, which is pretty good for me. But that same game, my sister rolled a 145. She is not nearly as bad at bowling as I am. Like, I'm always the one every year who comes in last. But I'm not joking. I think she got a turkey that game. Like, she was just bowling strike after strike after strike. She could not be stopped. I wonder how she's doing these days. I haven't talked to her since. I'm kidding. I literally was texting her yesterday. Can you imagine? But although it did not bring me luck on Black Friday, I did also wear this to go watch Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Unfortunately, I am very obsessed with Five Nights at Freddy's. We were at the movie theater the day that movie opened, which is not something that I do ever. But I was like, Dennis, can we please? I'm like, people are going to be making YouTube videos about the lore. I need to understand. We need to go see this as quickly as possible. Anyway, I really want to make some more jackets this year because jackets are the one area of my closet where I really struggle. Not only do I not really have any jackets that I like, I mean, obviously I like the ones that I've made, but in general, I don't like any of the jackets in my closet, but I also don't really know what I want. I think part of it for me is I'm not typically much of a layering person. I tend to like a more simple style. And I typically like my clothes to be more fitted, especially my upper body. I am a pear-shaped girly, and so I prefer things that are a little looser down below the waist and a little tighter up top. And so when it comes to jackets, it's just hard to find a silhouette that I like. And then also, I feel like they don't sell many jackets in colors that I like. I feel like a lot of it is gray or like very drab, depressing brown or black, which is just too intense for most of the outfits that I wear. I don't know. That's going to be a little quest of mine this year, is to figure out exactly what I want in a jacket and to actually create a few jackets that I enjoy. Coats as well, because sure, it's not looking like I'm really going to need any coats this winter, but typically, even in Florida, you do need a coat once in a while. And I just don't really love the ones that I have. So stay tuned. I will be making a winter wardrobe essentials video, and I will be making at least one, honestly, possibly two coats in that. I'm excited to finally have some outerwear that I actually enjoy. Let me know if you also struggle with outerwear or if that's just like a weird me problem, and exactly what your challenges are with outerwear, because I am curious. All of that to say, I do love this jacket. I do think that it's so perfect for fall. Something about the burnt orange and forest green feels kind of autumnal to me. It's not my typical like pastel sort of palette, but it's still bright enough that it feels very me. Overall, huge success. I'm very, very happy with this. And finally, we have everything I knitted this year, which thankfully was not very much because I am getting pretty tired of talking. Also, this is a pretty consistent color palette, no? Anyway, let's discuss. This is a little yellow one-shoulder crop top that I knitted, I think mostly just out of boredom while we were driving places. I self-drafted this, so honestly, it could be improved for sure, but it's really not that bad. I'm making another version in pink right now, so we'll see how that one turns out. I'm just making a few differences to that one, so you can see I have a little bit of ribbing on the bottom. I did fewer stitches on the ribbing, so it would fit a little more tightly at the bottom. And then we'll see. I might make some changes to the top or the strap or do two straps or something instead. But anyway, this is just a fun little piece that I knitted basically to pass the time, but it worked out really well. Again, I've been obsessed with this butter yellow. It's just been a fun, sunny little top that I can wear, and I love styling it with jewelry. I love that it's a one shoulder. It makes it feel a little bit more elevated and fun. And yeah, for something that I basically just threw together, I really love how this turned out. Oh, this was the Joanne Big Twist yarn. Now that Michaels has acquired Joann's, I think that they've rebranded as Thread and Loop, but I think that it's the same yarn. I could be mistaken. Feel free to correct me. But yeah, that's what I use to knit this. This sweater has gotten a lot of wear. I love a chunky sweater. I love this burnt orange pumpkin shade. I love wearing this when the weather's a little bit colder. For this, I used the Ottawa sweater pattern, and the seller goes by Made by Brenda, I believe, on Etsy. I love this sort of seed pattern that's all over the bodice. I did mess up the gauge once I split for the armhole, so it looks a little bit different, but it's fine. It's fine. It's still fun. And then it just has these little fun little stripes on the sleeves. I love that it's chunky, but it doesn't feel super oversized. And it could be more oversized if you just made it longer. But like I said, I like a little bit more of a crop length. So I really enjoy it. I love the giant sleeves. This is so, so warm and cozy. I use the Lion Brand Thick and Quick yarn in the color Pumpkin, I believe. I mean, just looking at this color makes me feel warm. It really is the perfect sweater to just bury yourself in. If you want a chunky sweater, do check out Brenda Made This on Etsy. I've made a few of her sweater patterns. They're all using very chunky yarn. Because the yarn is so chunky and you use giant knitting needles to make it, they're actually fairly quick knitting projects. So if you struggle to actually finish projects because you get distracted or whatever, try a chunky sweater because they go a lot faster and that may help you actually get through it. Plus, you know that you just get the warmest hug of a piece of clothing after you're done. So what can be more motivating than that? So this is the Fashionably Lace Cardigan by Kara's Knit Eng on Etsy. And this cardigan is just, I love it. I will say I love a good boho moment. Unfortunately, I was a teenager in the 2010s. That really got to me. And this to me has such a fun boho vibe. I've talked about it before, but I love red as a good little pop of color. I think it goes with so many things and just adds a little bit of warmth and fun. I did hack this pattern a little bit. I think that it's supposed to have a puff sleeve, but I just loved how it looked with the bell sleeve so much. I just kept it as it was. You can see it just has this really, really beautiful lace pattern. It actually reminds me a lot of a blanket that my Nana knitted for me when I was a baby. It had a very similar lace pattern, and I love that I kind of get to wear my baby blanket in a way. For the yarn, this is the Homeland brand by Lion Brand yarn. I believe this is the color Cincinnati Red. Honestly, I think I want to make this in an off-white. I think that this would be such a cool styling layering piece for the spring. So I would love to have it in a more neutral color too. But yeah, I think that this is just so beautiful. It makes me feel like a mermaid for no logical reason. And I just absolutely love it. I really just want to put this on while I'm talking about it. This is so heavy and warm and perfect. If you're just reading on a cold winter afternoon, this is the perfect cardigan to slip on and you just bury yourself in it. This is so comfy. Unfortunately, I can't remember what yarn this is. I bought it at Joann's. I used up all of it, so I don't have the label or anything anymore. Maybe they have it at Michael's somewhere. But I really, really loved this yarn. I love the variegated colors. Did I say that correctly? Probably not. It just feels like a sunset to me. I love how big these sleeves are. I just feel so cozy all wrapped up in it. It's so fun. Oh, this is the Game Set Match cardigan, but also by Kara's Knit Eng on Etsy. Again, links to everything will be below. And this actually comes with a matching top, which I've made most of it. I'm on the straps and I had to put it on pause because I need to get double pointed needles in a size 15 or something like that. And ordering them has completely halted my progress. So that's very fun. You can make not only the cardigan, but a matching top with it. And again, it's such a chunky yarn and you use such large needles with it that it's a fairly quick project. Look, these seams are just so clean. Look at how neat that is. That just gives me so much catharsis. Is that the word I'm thinking of? I love it. Okay, friends, that is it. That is everything for everything I made in 2025, the sequel. So I'm going to keep this brief because I am already losing my voice and I still have to make part 3. I hope that you stay tuned for the finale. If you haven't, feel free to go check out part 1. You don't have to watch these in any particular order, but as of the time of publishing, part 3 is not out yet, so go check that out. If you would like to see part 3 when it comes out, which again will be all of the dresses that I made this year, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss when that comes out. I believe I have over 2 hours of footage for this video that I need to cull through and edit. This one is going to take me the longest to get out. Once this is up, part 3 will not take nearly as long to film and to edit. So I should have that out in just a few days. So keep your eyes peeled. Thank you so much for being here with me. I do appreciate it. I'm glad that you seem to not mind my yapping too much. If you want to give the video a thumbs up, it's a small thing, but it really, really helps me out. And yeah, feel free to leave a comment letting me know what your favorite thing was. And I hope I see you for part 3. Let's wrap this trilogy up. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I hope that I see you in part 3. And until then, have a great day. Bye.